She's also one of our production members. Very much.
Hello, greetings everybody. What a great way to start a week, hey? To come and have dinner with some friends and make some new friends and do some shopping. And I want to thank Paula and Victoria for inviting me to come here tonight to share a story with you guys that is a very personal story that's very near and dear to my heart. And it will give you some backdrop into how it is that someone like me became involved in working in a rural, doing some development work in a rural village in Guatemala. So I'll just jump right in. As Paula mentioned, I'm a nurse. I've worked for, almost 30 years now. I can't believe that. I've always worked in pediatrics, so there's never a dull moment. And I've also worked as an organ and tissue donor coordinator, which is like having a totally different job. I'll come alongside of families that are usually in sudden crisis and making end-of-life decisions for their family members. And that has been a really challenging role for me, for sure. But I will have to say that the role that has stretched me the very most in my life is being a mom. I'm a mom to 3 grown kids, and I have to use that term loosely on some days, but for the most part, they are now grown and launched. So I am an empty nester. And I'll tell you, I have become the laziest, most domestically lazy person on the face of the earth since that has occurred. But I probably shouldn't even be admitting that to you tonight. So anyhow, Julian is my firstborn. He's 29 years old and he is a police officer here in London. And growing up, Julian never gave me any trouble at all. My middle daughter, Olivia, she's now 27 and she lives in Chicago. And she did her very best to live up to that reputation of being a middle child, if you know what I mean. It served her well. She's now finishing her master's degree and she's going to be getting married later this year. So that's exciting. And then there's my dear, precious Amanda. She is soon to be 23 years old. She has decided that she would like to be a doula, which for some of you that might not know that, that's a labor coach. And she's enrolled in the program this fall in September for Fanshawe. Now my Amanda has one of the biggest, tenderest, most compassionate hearts of anyone I've ever known. And I am so thankful, sorry I'm getting emotional, but this is where it gets emotional. I'm so thankful to God for the transformation and the healing that has occurred in her life in these last few years. Because once upon a time, not very long ago, she was a 14, 15-year-old girl. She was angry. She was clinically defined as being oppositionally defiant. She was depressed, anxious, and you can imagine all of the behaviors and the choices that naturally flow out of living in an emotional, mental state like that. And that's what we were dealing with. And you know, the trajectory of the path that she had chosen at that time scared me to death. And there were actually moments that I feared that losing her could be a reality. So for 3 years, I made some tough love decisions for her that I never, ever dreamt I'd have to make for one of my children. And we get her through to 18. Thank God we made it to 18. And Amanda lands herself a full-time job. And I'm thinking, how did she do that? I mean, she probably only has 6 or 7 high school credits to her name. And I began to have this urgency, if you will, this desperation swell inside of me, and it had nothing to do with math or English credits, and everything to do with this desire, I can't even explain it, but this desire for my daughter to connect with a sense of purpose for her life. I wanted her to understand that if she could have the experience to serve other people, that if she could expand her worldview, say, I needed Amanda to understand that here in Canada, we live in the Disneyland of Disneyland, if you will, and the next iPhone is not the most important thing in the world. So I made a proposition to her. I said, listen, I want you to pick a country, and I need you to keep it in the Western Hemisphere, because I thought the little brat will choose Nepal or India or something, and I wasn't feeling that brave. And I told her, I want you to go and I want you to do something for somebody else. I want you to be involved in a service project, and I want you to go for 2 or 3 months. And the good thing was I could see a genuine enthusiasm in her eyes, but she was also scared. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do this with her. And I was sitting in my bed one night, looking at this list of countries and my laptop in hand, and I remember being really excited because I've always wanted to go to South America. That's kind of on my bucket list. And out of nowhere, it was like, Guatemala. And I'm like, I actually turned around in my bedroom because it was such a strange experience. And I thought, Guatemala? Who goes to Guatemala? I mean, I probably could not have pointed out Guatemala on a map to you at that point. So I continued to focus on this list of countries, and Guatemala actually invaded my thoughts. So I thought, this is way too strong of an impression. So I booked it. And we flew down to Guatemala City, we took a bus over to Shela, we lived with a local family, worked in the governmental orphanage, for about 6 weeks. Then we spent about 10 days sort of traveling around the country, seeing the sights. And for us, it was such a time of healing and reconnection for a mother and daughter. We come back to Canada, and now I'm thinking, okay, great, how am I going to get this kid through high school? And I felt completely overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine how she felt because she had no momentum and no success really to build on at this point. So I had another crazy idea. We had met people from all over the world working down there. And I thought, they have to be sending their kids to school somewhere. So I got on a plane, I flew back down there, I found her a little international high school, found her a family to bill it with, came home and said, Amanda, as crazy as this sounds, how would you like to go to Guatemala and finish your high school? And she looked me square in the eyes and she said, you know what, Mom? I'd go tomorrow if you'd send me. So I did. And that was in April of 2013. She spent just over 2 years there. So in 2014, I decided I'm taking the calendar year off. I'm not missing out on all this fun. So I flew down and I lived with the same family. And Ingrid and Carlos, we lived with them and their children, and they were the in-country directors for a nonprofit organization called School the World out of Boston. And it was their responsibility to organize these team service trips to come down to Guatemala. These girls had been busy in Boston saving money to build schools in rural villages in Guatemala. And so they would come down for a week, and Amanda and I would go along on these trips to help translate and just be an extra set of hands. So it was an awesome experience for us. Part of the curriculum for these girls was to spend maybe half a day or a day in a Mayan family homestead so that they could see the different roles and responsibilities of these people. And I distinctly remember standing in this, say, 200 square foot adobe block home, dirt floor. I mean, the floor was so rough that you could twist your ankle in the middle of the night. And the women sweep their floors just like we would, right? They sweep their floors in the morning. And I kept thinking, oh my God, there's no reprieve from dirt at all. And this woman was saying to me, I just am really hoping that one day I'll be able to put a cement floor in my house. Okay, now I need you to stay with me here. 5 years prior to that moment, I had spent money to go to Mexico to take part in a cob building workshop. Cob, C-O-B, is an Old English term for building with clay, dirt, sand, and straw. Never knew why I did that. And during that workshop, we helped to build a home while we were there, and during that workshop, they touched on using the same kind of a mixture, a cob mixture, to trowel on and make like an earthen floor. So you would level out your area, make this mixture, trowel it on just like cement, and then once it dried, you would seal it up with linseed oil. And linseed oil is actually, like linoleum, comes from linseed oil. So you would be left with a surface that's cleanable. So I said to this woman, you know what? I bet you we could dig up the dirt around your house here, and we could bring some sand in and mix it with some straw or pine needles or whatever the heck we have lying around, and we could make a really nice floor for you. And I almost became obsessed with this. So I went and I called a meeting with the community leaders, and I'm sure they thought I was nuts. And I said, you know what? I think we should do this together just as an experiment. And I'm going to see if I can rally up some guys from my church. They'll come down and they'll work with you for a week. They're going to love you. And they're going to want to help you. So what is it as a community that you would like us to do for you? What would be your number one priority? And they said, we would like water to our school building. So I said, okay, that's what we'll do then. I came back to Canada, and I was so fortunate then to cross paths with a gentleman who is actually here tonight. And he took me under his wing. He has a nonprofit organization called Isaiah Projects, and he took me under his wing to do this work. And one day, I had put on Facebook, hey guys, we're at $2,400. We need $3,500 to make this water project a reality. And I received a phone call from one of my patients' mothers. Sadly, he had died about 3 years earlier, but she and I had such a relationship during his treatment for cancer that we just never let that go. And she called me and she said, Melinda, I saw your post on Facebook and I heard God whisper, make up the difference. So she did. So we rallied up a team, we went down and did our first team trip in the spring of 2015. We put the floor in, we all worked together, and we bought the materials and the title for the water, and we trenched and we connected that school building with water. And that community was absolutely so appreciative. And that was my entrance point into Colonia San Juan in the rural highlands of Quiché, Guatemala. Today, I continue in my role as friend and advocate to these amazing people. And we have decided that we want to work together, we want to partner together to foster independence rather than create dependence. And so we have decided that if we can learn about living more sustainably, that we can do and accomplish just that. So today we have sent 6 people, actually, including myself, to a permaculture design certification course. It's a 2-week intense training. And permaculture is basically sort of saying sustainable agriculture, or say agriculture that mimics nature. And it's a way for them to sort of redesign their little plots of land so that every element is functioning in 2 or 3 different ways and everything is working together so that they can live more sustainably. Because Guatemala has the 4th highest chronic malnutrition in the world. And so just one little piece of this permaculture initiative is for families to have 1, if not 2 or 3, square-foot raised bed vegetable gardens so that the families can have access to fresh vegetables. So there's so many other principles, if you will, that we need to roll out still, that we're working on together, slowly but surely. When they don't have water, and they don't right now, it's a big problem, but there is a government program underway right now. But we need to work on composting, we need to work on them starting their own nurseries so that they'll be able to replenish and sustain these family gardens. They need to start, there's a lot of things they need to start doing. We could start throwing out seed bombs for ground cover so we make green manure, all kinds of things. So it's a slow but a steady progress, and the goal is for them to be awesome homesteaders. So I'll stop there because I might be overloading you, sorry. And I just want to say that I actually marvel at how God uses certain situations in our life, how He puts people, groups into our life, and how He recycles our experiences to grow us up so that we can actually be in service to other people. Who would have thought that in those dark days with Amanda, that He would set my feet on a path of such an adventure? So in conclusion, I just want to share with you, it's actually a favorite verse of mine, and it's sort of become my mantra, and it's from Proverbs 3:3-5. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Thank you.
Thank you so mumuch, Melinda. And I'm excited to announce that we're actually supporting Melinda and taking a team of 12 people to Guatemala with her in November to serve for 2 weeks. All right, we're going to get you to stand up and network for 2 songs, and then we're going to come back for a rapid-fire Q&A. Enjoy the break.